Good evening, Ward 5. I'm Rarchar Tortorello, and we are live, and I'm doing a sound check. We will have live comments tonight. I'm one of your co-hosts. My other co-host is Kari Rails. Kari, how you doing?
Good. Hello.
Well, if you live in East Norman, you know the feeling. You know, you see the for sale signs popping up. You see Axis, Oklahoma people roaming the countryside. A lot of rumors. We know the Turnpike um, has a location yet, but we don't know exactly what they're going to do. And now we have an empty seat on City Council, right when we need a voice the most. Next Tuesday, we are hiring, or Ward 5 is hiring a new representative to represent Ward 5. Tonight, we want answers, so we brought Trey, Kirby, and Shai. Is Shai, how to pronounce your name, Shai?
Shai, just like I'm not.
Shai Fenwick to sit down and talk about the water, roads, and the controversial shelter bond coming up in April. Kari?
This is all about protecting the rural east side of Norman. And for a lot of you that may or may not know, I've been in Ward 5 since 1985. And so this is very important to me. We are landowners out here and hope to stay landowners on the east side of Norman.
And it's all about protecting the rural side of Norman. I'm Rarchar Tortorello. Let's get down to the questions. Good evening, everyone. Next Tuesday, February 10th, is election day. Trey, Shai, thank you for stepping up. We know running for office is not easy. I've done it before. But before we get into the maps, money, let's start with the job itself. Ward 5 is the largest ward in the city of Norman, and it has a very unique and specific history. But I want to ask Shai first, and then we'll ask Trey. Who is your favorite former Ward 5 city council member and why?
That's a lovely question. All right. So I really enjoyed Sarita Wilson. Now, I'm a dog person, so that's part of my conversation. I'll be honest with you, right? I also loved that her property is right by that mailbox that had the airmail option off Highway 9. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Like it was, yeah, wonderful. So what I really liked about Sarita, and this is going to sound very simple and maybe a little basic, but I really do believe that all politics is local and that it is personal, right? It absolutely is. And so one of the things that Sarita did that I think is incredibly powerful is, and just from an American standpoint at every single level, she cared about the roads. If you had a pothole problem, she wanted to hear about it, right? And here's the thing, that is a Ward 5 conversation. When you're talking about who you are, when you're talking about where you're going, when you're talking about the history of Ward 5, you are talking about the history of roads, you're talking about competing, territories and how things migrate from a city to a county, to an HOA, back to the city, back to the county. And nevertheless, we have so many roads out here that people can't get up their driveway when it, rains. Right? Whenever you have fire, whenever you have flood, whenever you have, say, a wind emergency, because this is Oklahoma, we get all of it, right? We have earthquakes. We are the third most geoactive place in the country. And so these are all relevant conversations. We all live here together. And what I loved about Sarita's tenure was that she talked to everybody and she cared about the basic things that make us all care about being in Ward 5, the character of our space, how we get where we need to go, and the real nuts and bolts of how you actually do city government. I cared about that, and I appreciated her for that.
Okay, good answer. Trey Kirby, same question. Who was your favorite Ward 5 city council member and why?
I mean, I think multiple people have been great at the job. Like she just said, Sarita had her bonuses. Michael Nash did great when it came to following budgets, and you did good on your part about working with everybody, no matter which side of the aisle, and bringing people together to try to accomplish stuff instead of just locking up a council. So I really can't say I have a favorite one, as just as much as I appreciate what each one has brought to the table why they were here.
And it's a good answer too. You know, running for office and representing the ward also includes representing the entire city of Norman. You know, I listened. Look, the way I did it, Shai. You know, you and I had our conversations.
We did.
Ward 5. We did. It was Ward 5 specific, or Ward 5 specific, and City of Norman, or the City of Norman. And then, you know, the decision doesn't come down to one person. It comes down to the conversations you're having with your ward members in that community as to which direction you want to go. And I think that is the telltale sign of a great council member, is putting and having those conversations with the ward and putting up polls and getting the pulse. You know, you don't run a one-man show. This is an everybody show. But at the end of the day, you have to make either an easy decision or a hard decision. I'm going to throw it over to Kari. I think she has a Turnpike question.
Yes, that was one of the most popular questions we have, of course, as you guys would know. Access Oklahoma, just rip the Band-Aid right off. You know, most people, and just summing it up, many different ways that the question was asked, but, you know, we get it from the top down in our state of why nobody can touch the Turnpike. They're the untouchables. We all want them gone, but nobody can make them gone. Trey, give me some ideas that you could share with maybe how we could stop a construction, using city zoning laws to block them, any kind of litigation you don't feel like we haven't exhausted. And it's been exhausting. I've been a part of it. It's exhausting.
I mean, we just got to keep doing what we've been doing, talking to our state reps. They're the ones who have the ultimate power to change everything. So we have to stay on contacting, whether it's Annie Mins or Lisa Stanbridge or whoever gets elected in this new election. We got to stay on our elected officials to try to put forth some kind of eminent domain rules. There's 9 states around us that have blocked the use of eminent domain outside of certain aspects, I guess you could say. Like the deal we've been fighting for the last 2 years with WFEC down on the southeast side of Norman is they made one offer. The person said no. Before they could even counter them, they went in and sued them for eminent domain. And that's a private corporation using eminent domain who should have never been able to use it because they had other options. And they already have enough easements that they kind of jumped the gun on that. And the Turnpike's doing the same thing in the path it's currently on, is they made offers and then they just went in and did land condemnation. And I think we need to do like Chandler with Jim Shaw. They went in and did offset rules. Like, it's the city of Norman, we need to get ahead of stuff before it happens, and we need to do offsets to where you can't put substations, turnpikes, windmills, solar power, AI, anything like that within, say, 2,500 foot of somebody's front door. Like, you can't really say their property or their entrance, but you can put a offset from their house. And other counties have been very successful with it, and if we would put that kind of offset into place, it would have prevented like the WFEC from taking place. And if you put it in and even include wording like turnpikes, not letting it within 2,500 foot of our watershed per se, then where it's about to cross through right over there on 72nd, it's going to be within 2,500 foot of the watershed. But they did get far enough out of it that the Land Bureau is okay with it, the Oklahoma Land Bureau. So we need to make our own rules and set our own standards before the problem's knocking on our door. We got to get ahead of a lot of stuff, kind of like protecting our water. We need to go in and say, just because you can spray 2,000 chemicals per the EPA, don't mean we should. And we should put out a list of chemicals that's friendly to our watershed and encourage people to use them specific chemicals. I mean, as you know, of the forever chemicals, I mean, there's a list that we should be encouraging our people to not use.
Yeah. Shia, same question for you.
Okay, would you mind asking it again? I'm so sorry. I just wanted to kind of track it all.
So many people are frustrated with everyone saying from the top down, and that means from the governor all the way down to our county seats. We can't do anything about it. We all want them gone, but we can't do anything. Do you feel like there's any avenues that haven't been exhausted that at a county level we can help still pluck away at?
I absolutely do. I think that that is, in fact, a great place to have this conversation. One of the things that we heard, and this was in relation to the TIF, right, which I'm sure we will get to later, um, was that there's a conversation or perception that Norman is, quote, not a friendly to business, and I think that that perception that there's a concern there. I think that I think it's a very powerful thing to
Mhm.
not be welcome to all. I think that that has been manipulated throughout history, in fact, right? And I think that there is a very grave difference between predatory development and actual effective development. I think that those are different things. And so I think that there are things that we can do. As Trey said, I think he's absolutely right in terms of the procedure, in terms of having those conversations about rule sets, talking about it just from planning. In terms of if you are wanting to put something within this distance of residential properties, for example, or businesses, that there are things you have to do to get through planning committee. And that in order to go before additional levels of city government, you have to get through the planning committee, where in fact those folks have the nuts and bolts understanding of all of those bits and pieces, and they can have those conversations and present it accordingly. Additionally, it came to my attention that although we are replacing public roads with these toll roads, right, these turnpikes, that, and again, I'm speaking from my teacher space, um,
Mhm.
that our first responders, our our schools, our government officials do not use turnpikes for free. They pay. With the turnpike coming where it is absolutely going to delay our first responders to the vast majority of our elderly residents out in Ward 5. That is going to explicitly cost lives. And so here's the thing, I don't have a problem going after people who are coming after our people. So I'm very comfortable with asking our state level representatives to and looking at places who have lost homes to the turnpike before to see if there's some sort of statewide initiative. So quite frankly, I like to go after a wallet. I'm very comfortable doing that, making justice expensive. So, what I would like to do is, I would like to see first responders. I would like to see school entities. I would like to see government vehicles travel free on all Oklahoma turnpikes. If you're going to replace our roads, then you're going to carry our people like we would carry them on our roads. I want my taxes to pay for people to get to the hospital safely. And I would like to explore again what the OTA just did was they filed that the suit where they that it was like a notice that they filed where we're going to sue if these due diligence pieces are not followed and accounted for. And I think again, massaging the existing procedures, but also I like Winston Churchill. I'm a former Brit, so pincer movement really works for me. Come at it from all the angles. If it's going to come through and it's going to take homes, then I want to make sure that we are, if we're going to sell people's dreams down the road, literally, then it needs to be expensive.
You know what? Go back and explain what you mean by predatory.
Yeah.
What did you mean by that? What's your definition?
So So my definition here is if you are in Norman and if you are looking to actually improve the lives of people in Norman for Norman, then we're good. But if what you're doing is coming into this space and you are existing from a place and like you're existing in a place that's not here. You're coming here, you're going to do your business, you're going to leave and you'll never have to drive these roads. You'll never have to get your grandma down the street when she's got a blood sugar emergency at 2:30 in the morning, right? And you don't care what happens to these people. I think that's a problem. And I think that's a lot of the development that we are trying to be friendly to is this injudicious application of welcome. I care for people. I'm not inviting my fox inside my hen house. I have chickens, and I'm not inviting a fox inside the hen house. If you are here to take care of our people, if you're here in partnership and community with us, then let's go. I'm here. I'm here all day. Keep the dollars where they can actually help the people. But
Mm.
if you're looking to Dallas my Norman, you can take it home with you. That's fine.
Well, a lot of folks in Ward 5 would agree with that too as well, because we don't want
Yeah.
the reason we moved out to Ward 5, the majority of us, is because we want and like the rural wilderness area and aspect and quietness of that area.
Yeah.
And
A
what
piece of
people
it.
are upset about is that if when the turnpike does come through, it's going to bring traffic, it's going to bring shopping. It's going to bring things out to Ward 5 that when you bought your property 10, 15, 20 years ago, you were told, okay, and development happens. So development does not exist in a
Sure.
vacuum. It always grows,
Right.
and it grows where people are at. So that's on the table. But for the most
Yes.
part, we are far enough out that the creep coming in from the city side is a real threat, not just to our peace of mind, but to the
To our way of
wilderness,
life.
to everything out there. And so this
Yeah.
is why people are upset. Water runoff was a big problem when Sarita was in office, and it was an issue that
Yes.
I had helped try to work with too as well. The Turnpike Authority, Trey, had offered to pay for drainage upgrades if and when the Turnpike does come through at the 36 and Indian Hill interchange, but only if the city signs a resolution of support. Would you vote yes to a tiny resolution to get drainage money our residents need, or would you do and be a no vote based on principle because it helps out the Turnpike Authority?
I don't think we should negotiate with the Turnpike in any way, shape, or form. I don't think it should be an if, and, when, or but. I think we should be looking at what's going to happen in June when this election happens, because we have, 11 government officials that are running just for governor, and we have Jake Merrick who's saying abolish it all the way around, and everybody else says, hey, let's work together, or there shouldn't be no negotiation. We need to take a stance like our military and say, we're not going to negotiate. We don't want you. You're bad for our environment. You're bad for the farms. You're bad for the wildlife. You're just bad. Oklahoma hasn't wanted them in 20 something years. We've made that clear. No, no turnpike has went through in an area without a fight from the farmers. They pushed through and they've stolen land through force, which I call extortion. And we're allowing, once again, a company who's running off of bonds to extort people. And you got to think, we have all these senators and House reps saying, hey, we don't want no foreign governments or foreign people owning land. And then we put these turnpikes bonds up for sale. So how do you even know that the money that they're making on them turnpikes is even staying in the USA and not going to China or Ukraine or Russia or some other country? Because I'm pretty sure anybody and everybody can buy that bond once they put it up for sale.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think we should be working with them. I don't think the city of Norman should have ever even added it to the 2045 AIM plan, because that's kind of projecting something into existence. And until the government comes through and says you have to let them come through, there is no other choice. You have your hands are tied, and anything less is an attack on a government agency. We should not negotiate. We should not deal with them, and we should make it pert near impossible for them to get through. And people say, well, your land is only worth this much an acre if it's already for sale. But if your land is not for sale, then you should be able to set the price, even if it's 100 times higher, because it's your family who has bled into that land for the last 5 generations. They don't know how much you spent on dozers. They don't know how much water drifting that you've done. They don't know nothing about you or your family or that land. And with me, my family, we make money off the land with our farm, with agriculture. And I can tell you right now, my kids and grandkids can't go out there with a fork and a knife and cut out a piece of concrete and take a bite, but they can with our grass-fed organic beef or organic goat meat. And that's what we got to look at, because you look at Michigan, Maine, Texas, and multiple other states, they're literally euthanizing farm animals and deer. Michigan hung signs that you couldn't hunt the deer and eat the meat because it was run because of the forever chemicals from runoff and everything else. So we need to be the difference, and we need to be the generation that stands up and shows the future generations that you can say no to companies that they say are too big to beat, because nothing is too big to beat if enough people stand up. It only takes one person refusing to move to stop what's going on.
Okay. Shai, same question to you. So what if, okay, so the resolutions, the city council, nothing works, nothing happens. OTA has clear authority to exercise that right. They have offered to work on the drainage problem and the upgrades at 36 and Indian Hills at that interchange. Would you vote yes that tiny resolution to get the drainage money that Ward 5 would need? Or would you be a no vote like Trey?
So I think that I agree with what Trey said. Absolutely. 100% on board with that, for a lot of the same reasons. An additional piece that I think is also useful is that one of the interesting communication strategies that the Turnpike Authority tends to use is the inevitability of the Turnpike.
Mm-hmm.
People said the metric system was inevitable too. Yet here we are. And so one of the things I think we can do is that we have, I mean, Oklahoma is a very interesting place. We have the largest tribal representation here. We have some very creative thinkers. We have heritage thinkers who understand this space in a very in a really coherent, really effective way. We're Norman, for example. We are, I think, like 15th in terms of PhDs per capita. Literally, the water project with Dr. Robert Nairn is here at the University of Oklahoma. We sell our water strategies globally. Global development rests on the water behaviors that we do and we come up with out of the University of Oklahoma, right? And again, I moved here because I like standing on my porch with a cup of coffee in the morning and watching the 3 deer drink out of my pond. I say hi to them. They say hi to me. They go about their business. I continue to drink my coffee. I don't want to hear a Turnpike. I moved here from Houston. I could hear I-45. I could see it from my house. I could hear it from my house too, inside my house. And so that's not what anybody out here wants. In terms of water and those strategies and how we handle those additional wells that we need, because we are not, for example, actually meeting our water needs out here with our existing well structure. We are buying water from Oklahoma City. I think that the effective development, again, that non-predatory, that partnership development we're looking for, where we have stakeholders, not stockholders, is how we sell water to the people of Norman, right? If you want infill development, then you have to really talk about stormwater. Those are intelligent linkages to make, right? The linkage of Turnpike or no water is incoherent. And that is a structured, strategic conversation that is not actually a real necessity. We can sell stormwater to people in a different way. We need to do stormwater,
Absolutely.
but that's not how.
Absolutely. Kari?
Absolutely. So before I ask my next question, Trey mentioned the bonds on the Turnpike. And just so people know, they are paying at 7.6% income. You got to lock in for 20 years, but that income you generate is tax exempt. Same thing will happen with the TIF bond. You'll be able to invest. That income is tax exempt. And so that's how you invest into these products. And the 1% holds it to their cuff because only so many people can get in and invest in that product.
Right.
Many people do not know that. And you don't have to be wealthy. You can put $1,000 in. It's crazy. Now, eminent domain is the next question, and it comes from Allie with the No Turnpike group. And we'll start with you, Shai, because I started with Trey last time, just to be fair.
Yeah.
What is the philosophy on the proper use of eminent domain? Is it ever appropriate for the city or state to take land for development? And where do you draw the line?
So for me, I don't like the idea of eminent domain. And I will say this in addition, I don't think that we can ignore the history of taking land in Oklahoma. I think that it is a betrayal of our history, in fact, to ignore that. And so when we make a mistake, and we make a mistake historically, and it affects the actual life ways and lived histories of people who are still here, I think that we owe it to them to learn from that when we do it. I don't believe that the use of eminent domain is justified without significant benefit to and of necessity. It actually has to be necessity, not artificial necessity. And when it is, it needs to be compensated fairly. When I moved out here, when I bought my house out here, again, my parents were both economists. I know how to buy land. I understand that vibe. We bought, like, our land has appreciated. It's, I think, at 115 over what we paid for it. Right. So it is 115%. So it's about 215. percent in terms of what we currently it's valued at versus what we paid for it. I tell my students when they ask me about financing and what it takes to buy a house, I said, well, don't ask me, y'all, because I stole my house. True story. But yeah, it's an incredible piece of property. I love it. If someone tried, and we are very fortunate because we bought in a place where the Turnpike can't come down. They would literally have to build the Atchafalaya Bridge to come to my house, right? But I care about the people. I didn't just move here for a property. I moved here for a community, right? And for my friends and neighbors to have to leave their dream home, the houses that I have shared, shared coffee with and broke bread at with people I care about, for them to have to leave because of a turnpike for profits, that is a problem for me. I do not sell my people down the river or the turnpike. And so for me, it would have to be a really significant conversation. I mean, if you're talking about a hospital where a hospital needs to go, for example, like Purcell, who lost their hospital, right? That's a different conversation. We can have a conversation about that, right? Maybe we fairly compensate people. Maybe we look at some creative solutions around that. Maybe it involves eminent domain of some space. But when you're taking a home, when you're taking the American dream from people, it needs to be worth it. And we have bought that dream very, very dearly. And so for me, it would have to be a case by case basis. And I'm ruthlessly inclined to say no. I hope that answers the question.
Oh, you did? Yes, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Did I interrupt or were you finished? I'm sorry.
No, go.
Okay. Trey, do you want me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
So Allie from the No Turnpike group is asking how you feel about eminent domain and how the state and city should be able to take land and where do we draw the line?
Eminent domain, I am not a fan of at all. We have fell so far away from the Constitution and how it was originally written for the use of it. We've allowed private industries, lobbyists to push for private industries to be able to use it. So, not a fan. People say, well, we could do this or that. But you look at, say, Robin Hill School out there on 48th and Franklin. That land was given, I believe, by the McGoverns over the years. And every time Robin Hill's needed a little bit, McGoverns have gave a little bit. OU, it was donated by farmers. Over where Griffin and the soccer fields and all that, I believe it was the Offenbergers farmers who gave that up 4 or 5 generations ago when they moved out to 60th and Robinson area. So I guess what I'm getting at is you don't have to go in and take anything by force like that. You'll find a lot of people are open to negotiation and would like to just do good out of the kindness of their heart. So Dr. Belknap ran around the world building hospitals in third world countries and, buying people's loans here so that they wouldn't lose a house after they pass. So the kindness of people will gather you more than going out and just taking. That grows a hate in people's heart. So when it comes to eminent domain, I feel like there's always an alternative option, and they've got so accustomed to jumping around them that we need to, once again, tighten it up. I believe it was Annie Mins. She's got the bill that's, I think, 3968 that hones in on eminent domain because we have to, once again, stop just the constant abuse. Hansmeyer's out there off the 60th. They had an original deal. I think it was Rarchar that did the deal when he was a councilman. I'm not 100% sure, but they were going to put a bridge in there. And then, new seats happen, new ideas happen, new contracts happen, and they go from a simple 2-lane bridge to a 4-lane bridge with giant shoulders. I mean, they say it's not a 4-lane, but you look at it, it's a 4-lane bridge. And to do so, they eminent domain land from they're probably 4th, 5th generation farm here in Norman to make a bridge wider. And you go down there, 60th ain't but two lanes. It ain't got a shoulder. It's barely got striped lines. And we go in and put a humongous bridge that went over budget and took forever to get done. And that was, to me, is an abuse of eminent domain because we didn't need that. And they said, well, in the future, 20 years from now, we might. Well, we might. But I don't know a single farmer in that area that's wanting to sell land right now. So the only way you might widen that road is eminent domain all the way down that road through multiple farmers. So once again, can people do it? Yes, they can. But should they do it? No, they shouldn't. So I will never be a fan of eminent domain. I've spent the last 2 years fighting against the abuse of eminent domain, and whether I win or lose, I'm going to be up at the Capitol and on the phone with representatives fighting against eminent domain.
That's a good answer. Both of you guys have good answers. Great. Look, myself, Michael Nash, and Brandon Noafire, we are strict private property rights owners. We will fight for the private property rights of everybody in Ward 5. And with the use of eminent domain, it should be used with scalpel precision. You know, when I was on council, I fought this and I advocated that what OTA did was put a bucket of water over Ward 5 on the map and kicked it over and said, I want all this, you know, and that's not the proper use of eminent domain. It does have its time and purposes, but in this situation, this is an overreach and abuse of the powers of the state to take property for something that 80% of Ward 5 agrees is not needed. And so, you know, the reality is that you know, the Supreme Court said that OTA has the right to put the southwest, the north south Turnpike into Ward 5. So if everything fails, this is a 15-second answer from each one of you. We'll start with Trey this time because I started with Shai. If they come to you and sit down as a council, would you sit down with OTA to sign a deal, or will it be a hard no forever? If everything is exhausted and it comes down to the council and you have to represent Ward 5, would you sit down with OTA to have that conversation, or no forever, Trey?
I'm going to be a no forever. No matter what, you have to answer the phone. You have to come to the table and you have to listen, and you have to take whatever they're offering back to your constituents. But I know as Ward 5, nobody in Ward 5 is going to want that deal. Period. I haven't met a person, who says, hey, let's let the Turnpike run through my house. And with it being so close to my house, it's going through a field I grew up playing with just less than 4 blocks from my house. If they so much as throw in an on-ramp on Alameda, it's going to take out my house. And it's already bad enough it's taking out people like Spore Plumbing, Eric Spore's house, who he's a veteran. He's a retired fireman. He set up his life in Ward 5. And now this Turnpike, now that it's moved, is just going to run right through him. So I believe any form of negotiation with the Turnpike equals you saying it's okay to steal 75 people's homes. And I wouldn't want a single person to give up my home. So I'm going to darn sure not vote to give up anybody else's home. And that's how I would vote. No, I have no intention to negotiate with the Turnpike.
Shia, are you a hard no forever?
I'm a hard no forever. For me, the big issue is they could just have come through here with bulldozers and just done the thing. But what they want, and what they seem to want, and what they understand is that we have the ability, and what they want us to do is legitimize what they're doing. They want that rubber stamp. They want it to be okay. Because here's the thing, they're not fighting this battle. They know this is a battle that they have lost the hearts and minds of Norman. They're fighting the next battle. They're fighting the people we're going to elect to come after them, because they are not talking about, and what happens in Norman is this: we, to a certain extent, are the conscience of Oklahoma in a very, very real way. And so this conversation about what happens here and what they need us to do to make them look legitimate, to make those decisions that every Oklahoman should be able to sleep after they hear about, that's the power that we have. And I think that what we owe it to, not just our residents here, not just our community members here, but to our fellow Oklahomans, is the understanding that this cannot stand. And if it happens here, then it's going to be happening to some of you soon, because they're not stopping. Bullies do not stop until you stop them. It's a no for me.
Good point. Kari?
So our next question is on homelessness in Norman, and this new big Proposition 5 with the $8 million 2% property tax hike. And before I get to the question, I'll give you guys a little bit of information that you may already know. Have you heard of use tax?
Yes.
So our use tax is every online purchase from DoorDash, Amazon, Uber, Walmart, every online purchase. That tax goes into the use tax account and not into the general fund. That is our county commissioner slush fund. They get to allocate at their leisure. And the only way we can access that is through open records. So imagine the millions of dollars we have in this account. So I ask you, why would we need to increase property taxes by 2% instead of dipping into the use tax account to pay for that project? And Trey, I'll start with you.
Well, because that's a complicated one, and I haven't been able to see the actual use tax because I haven't done an open records. Stephen was at the library town hall for Ward 5 this last weekend, and he came in and explained that used to we didn't receive no money from them sales taxes, and some stuff got shifted around, and now the city of Norman does receive some of that money. I'm not sure how much, but they do receive a tiny bit. As far as the shelter is from what I also understand from Stephen this week is we're not going to throw out homeless people, and we're not going to leave people to die on the street. So even if we vote no as a community and say, hey, we don't want this 2% tax, and we're not going to pay that $12 per $500,000, the shelter's not going to leave. And as of right now, that shelter's costing us $930,000 a year, from what I understood from Stephen this weekend. Shai was there, so she probably heard the same thing. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, the homeless are here to stay because we have Friends and Shelter, Food and Friends, and we have the Salvation Army, which is expanded, but nobody knows. And the city is already involved in a shelter, and they own the land now. So even if we vote no, they're going to sell the old library or do something with the old library, and they're going to put a building over on that 3 acres, and they're going to give help to the homeless because, once again, they don't want people dying on the sidewalk. So it comes down to, like you said, Norman is a hard sell, especially Ward 5, when it comes to a bond period. I mean, the bridge bond added what, $10 or $12 a year, and then the Botech bond, it added another $30 or $40 a year, and then now you're going to have the homeless bond. And if people do vote no, it might not necessarily even be because they don't support helping the homeless near just as much as I hear a lot of seniors and elderly say how all these bonds stack up. So where it might only be $12 a year for the homeless, when you add it to everything else, it might be $150 a year. And that's what people fear the most, because people, not just young people, but seniors and everybody struggle, especially with property taxes. I mean, my property taxes on just my house this year was about $300,000. Or $3,000. It was a large jump from last year's. And I haven't fought it or contested it or nothing, but I think that it's going to be a hard push no matter what. And since the shelter is going to be here no matter what, we need to look at it as with the $8 million and the 2% bond, it will come fully equipped immediately with all the needs that will help the people. Whereas if we don't support it and don't vote for it, then the building's going to come. It just won't be as nice, and it might take longer. Well, we've put off for 3 years, and they say it cost us $2 or $3 million already from inflation. So when you already know that it's not, we're going to help them no matter what, because they are human beings and all humans need help. So you got to look at it as, do you want it done right the first time, or do we want to drag this out for 4 or 5 years and cost the city even more money? Because if we do it right the first time, City Care says that within 5 years, they should be able to have enough money through private donations and through grants to fully fund it, which means that will take $930,000 a year off of our budget that they say we're hurting. So I would say let's just pull the Band-Aid. I mean, like they said, we're about to pay for that huge TIF over there, which I know we're not per se paying for it because it's coming out of sales taxes, but at the same time, we're going to commit to a giant arena that is $400 million. And $8 million is a kick in the bucket when you think about it, if it saves us $930,000 a year in the long run.
Okay. Shia?
Yeah, I think Trey's got the heart of it right there. I have a couple of additional pieces. So I was there on the one of the things that I've been doing is I've actually been going on to as many of the study sessions as I can for City Council. And I was there on January 20th when we City Care did their presentation. I had the opportunity to show up and sit there and just kind of watch with the rest of council. And City Care's presentation is phenomenal. It was really very effective. They had the numbers, they had the efficacy in place, and they had the structure for how to do it. They are the ones to watch. They are the model for how to do this correctly. And they have been involved in planning this whole structure in the first place, which is a really important component. So they've been able to design something that is effective. Now, I have a long history. I've been working in nonprofit for about 30 years. One of the nice benefits about being old is that you get to do a lot of things. And so one of the things I've done, I've been doing 501c3 work for a hot minute. I would work with, of course, SoonerCon here with the fandom group. And yeah, it's a party. It's a fantastic party. We have a $1.5 million contribution to the local economy when we're in town for that weekend. But you know what? We also sell out multiple hotels, and we see people here in this space, and I hear from people as to what they're going through. And if you look at the numbers, when you look at the United Way for Alice survey, for example, so Alice is ALICE, and that is an asset limited income constrained population, right? So above the federal threshold for poverty to get assistance, below the actual spot where you're making enough to feed your family and pay your mortgage and get gas for your car and get groceries, right? So that group, that is the vast majority. It's about 42% of folks in Cleveland County, right? And so when we look at our population, most Americans, about somewhere in the neighborhood, about 75%, are about one paycheck away from being on the street, right? Oklahoma has some challenges in terms of evictions and how our eviction courts are structured and how our eviction process is structured. So there's a humanity conversation there. Trey had it absolutely right. We're going to care for people because they're our people. In terms of why folks without homes are here, yes, there's the eviction conversation. Also, I lived in Houston for about 25 years. I lived in Austin for about 6. And so let me tell you, the conversation about unhoused folks being on your streets, you talk about tourism dollars coming in and the $600 million diversionary fund that we just approved in the state of Oklahoma down here in Norman. Let me tell you, if you have unhoused folks on your sidewalks down there in the Arena District, you're going to see some of those dollars walk out the door. And that is a problem. We're going to have to solve this problem. And in terms of the construction's not getting cheaper, right? We've wasted an additional $3 million in time alone between when this proposition first came up to now. And inflation is not getting lower. It's not slowing down. We're going to have to deal with this problem. Playing kick the can with people's lives is not okay. And so we have to solve it. For me, I think it needs to go to the vote of the people. I look forward to that happening. I think that Normanites will do the right thing, and not just the right thing for their hearts, the right thing for their wallets as well. And this is the right answer, in my opinion.
I do agree. We're going to have to speed this up here. We're coming to our hard break. We have another episode here in about 5 minutes. So, Kari, if you don't mind, I'm going to take the last 2 questions and just it's a speed round here.
No, I'm kidding.
I like it.
Speed round.
Making bobsled team. I love it.
Speed round number 1. ICE cooperation with the city of Norman. So I'm a big supporter of federal law enforcement and law enforcement in general. And I believe that if ICE or FBI or DEA approaches the city of Norman to work with to find the dangerous criminals in our community, that we should work with them. That's just my position. Shia, just the 30-second. If ICE comes to Norman and says, "Hey, we've got dangerous criminal illegals here," would you work with ICE or not? 30 seconds.
I'll work with DEA. I'll work with a lot of other groups, but I don't trust that ICE actually has the effective federal oversight to not be taking kids out of the pickup line at school, because I've seen them do it. It happened to one of my students. Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Are you finish your thought?
Sure. So I had students at OU. I had a high school student who was working at the Noun, and they came and took people out of his workplace. They took my my friend's dad when he was no tickets, no nothing, no criminal history. He had a flat tire on the side of the road. A resident called and said, "Hey, this man needs help." And they picked him up and they took him away. He's the sole breadwinner. And this child had to drop out of school from being a teacher because of that. So here's the thing. If there's appropriate oversight at the federal level, then sure. Do I trust that that's happening? I do not. We have dead people. I don't trust it.
Trey, if Norman Police Department gets a request from ICE to assist in detaining an undocumented immigrant who's committed a crime in Ward 5, would you work with ICE and PD to make this happen?
I believe you have to. I'm glad that they're going to be putting body cams on them. That's something that they recently just spoke about. But in the industry that I'm in, yeah, I believe that in certain circumstances, ICE is absolutely necessary because our local sheriff and our local PD do not have the capability, the manpower, or the knowledge to deal with the building that they may be going with and the materials that are in that building. And I've seen in the industry that is human trafficking happening in other situations. So if, like she said, if they're not just going in guns blazing, shooting everybody down, I believe sometimes you are going to have them because their federal training is way more extensive than what our local police get. And it might end up saving the life of our local police officers if an ICE agent goes in with their knowledge and their gear to stop the situation. So I believe every situation you're going to have to look at. And if they have all the facts and details, then, I mean, why would you not work with somebody who could save lives?
Okay, good answer. We are live from outside Mar-a-Lago in Florida. We landed about 2.5 hours ago, and we're on a hard break. I'll give you guys each 60 seconds. Closing arguments. Look at the camera and tell Ward 5 why they should hire you next week. We'll start with Trey.
I grew up here. I've seen a lot go on over the last, I'd say 30 years. I'm only 46. So I'd say over the last 30 years, we've seen a lot of different government shifts and a lot of different deals go on in Norman. And I'm just wanting to make sure to have somebody in place that can represent Ward 5 and make sure our watershed stays safe. My family and even my wife's family has watched our water for the last 2 generations. So, I mean, it would just kind of be carrying on a family tradition. I have a farm here and I want to make sure that both my kids can carry on the family tradition and I can leave them a legacy to have a farm and a clean town to live in that's affordable. So that's why I'm running, is because, I believe that this country was built on the backbone of farmers and businessmen, and it might need to return to farmers to get sense inside our local government.
Okay. Shia?
So I thank you so much, Ward 5, for coming out and kind of watching all of this and listening to what we have to say. I really appreciate living in Ward 5. I'm not here accidentally. I moved here on purpose because it mirrors my values, and I have chosen to be here. I deeply, deeply appreciate living here. I appreciate the people I get to live here with. When I bring my family out here, and my niece and nephew are out here, the last time my niece was out here, she planted flowers. She planted flower bulbs in the garden, right? I'm a gardener. I believe in listening to the earth. I believe in listening to people. And that's why I show up for this, right? This is essentially a volunteer gig because they sure as heck ain't paying us, right? And as a teacher, we don't work for the income. We work for the outcome. And we work to listen to people. Being a teacher also means you're never the most important person in the room. Your job is to listen. I really do believe that. And I think that, honestly, I would appreciate your vote. But here's the deal. We're out here with people like Trey. A vote for Trey is also a fantastic choice. So thank you very much, Ward 5. And thank you, Rarchar and Kari, for chatting with us today. I really appreciate being here.
Yes, thank you both for coming on. We absolutely wanted to give everyone in Ward 5 the opportunity to face every constituent. I'm glad you two did it. It will benefit you. If we get any more questions, PM to us, we will forward the questions to both of you so you have an opportunity to face with your constituents.
I appreciate it.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Hey, early voting is I think Thursday and Friday, right? So
yep, I think so. I've got my mail-in ballot right now. It's in my bag.
Yeah, so early votes in case we have a snowstorm next Tuesday. But Election Day is Tuesday, February 10th. And I want to thank both Trey and Shia for coming on today. I know we had a little technical difficulty because of where I'm at, and I just had to find a place in my hotel suite here to do this broadcast on Wi-Fi from my phone because it is there's so much going on here and everyone's consuming all the Wi-Fi. But I want to thank the viewers for watching this special City News OKC presentation of the Ward 5 City Council candidates. I want to thank both candidates. I want to thank Kari, my co-host, and I wish you guys good luck next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless.
All right. Cheers.